All right, good evening, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular scheduled City Council meeting scheduled for Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Beagle?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Here.
Councilmember Behrman?
Here.
Councilmember Gottschall?
Here.
Councilmember Grenlund Fox? Here. Councilmember Sharp?
Here.
Councilmember Smiley?
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda tonight? City Manager?
No changes, no additions.
Up here on the dais, anybody changes, additions? All right. We'll go right into the public hearing. I'm going to read the rules for the public hearing. If persons desiring to address the council shall state their name and address. Individual persons shall be allowed 5 minutes to address the council. There shall be no questioning by the audience of persons addressing the council. However, the council members may question persons addressing the council, and no person shall be allowed to address the council more than once. With that, I'll open up the public hearing. City Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just as by way of an introduction here, we have processes that we follow with the city for evaluating requests for tax abatements from companies that may be looking to locate in the city. And we've got a application packet that's been provided to us that's been through the first part of the process that the city has for evaluation. And it's a very interesting packet of submissions. It's an unusual situation. It's something that has not been done exactly like this in the city of Wixom previously, and it's not been done very often in Oakland County even, or throughout the state very much either. So it was a good learning experience for me and for other people that were involved in the process. So we have our first hearing tonight of 4 hearings that we are going to have. The first one is in relation to one of the 2 applicants and their application for consideration that's before you tonight. I'm going to basically summarize the package just at the beginning and at the outset, and then hopefully that'll carry through to the rest. So we've got 2 applicants. We have BKG Beck LLC, which had developed and constructed a speculative building in the city of Wixom a few years back at 30303 Beck, and was kind of done at the height of the market, being very hot. There had been other experiences with spec buildings of that type that did very well and were filled very quickly. This one kind of fell victim, I think, to the being a little bit late in the game in terms of the run that we've experienced with a hot environment for office space of this type. And what basically occurred, I believe, was there was a kind of an uptick in construction costs, which has required an uptick in the rent, which has caused the building to remain vacant since the time that it was constructed here. And it's on Beck Road, just near the railroad tracks on the west side of the road. And we think that's really what has been in play there. It's been something that's been a source of concern for us, that it's been vacant for that period of time. And we have the opportunity to have these applicants come before us with an opportunity to fill it. So the first applicant is BKG Beck. They constructed this speculative building. They put in an application that basically requests that an industrial development district be established covering the property, which is a first step that's required in these kind of tax abatement circumstances. The second aspect of their application is to then just go ahead and recognize the building as a speculative building. In other words, a building that was constructed without a tenant in mind, a building that has been constructed and not had a tenant since it was constructed. So those are the 2 items that are really being requested through their application. There's an application then from a prospective tenant, Blue Water Technologies Group Incorporated, that has made application to us for additional consideration, and that is for a tax-exempt certificate on the speculative building and a tax-exempt certificate for their tenant improvements that they're proposing. And we're going to get into more detail on it, but that's the general summary of what the package is before us tonight. And it's kind of a sequential type of thing where if the district is established, then we can consider the rest. And we'll go through these public hearings tonight. There was a requirement for an individual public hearing on all of these items before us tonight. That's why we have these. There was requirements for resolutions from the council for specific purposes, and those are before us tonight as well. And then action on whether we grant those certificate request to Blue Water Technologies Group, and then whether we enter into a letter of agreement to basically finalize the arrangement for those exempt certificates. So that's my brief introduction of where we're at, and if you want to ask any questions before we go any further, we can do that, or I can introduce folks from Blue Water that's going to start off with their introduction of themselves.
Councilman Smiley.
Mr. Brown, is it items 1 and 2 that make it unique, or is it the combination of all 4 that make it this unique? I'm just curious.
Yeah, the real thing that's unique about this from our perspective, and I think from most people's perspective, even in the business even, it's pretty unique, is the fact that we're doing it on a speculative building. When I was first approached about it, I didn't think that was a possibility. Had some conversations that led me to reevaluate that and start making some phone calls to people at the state. Janae Jenkins, who was very helpful at the state, assisted with that and informed me that this was actually a possibility to go ahead and do that on a building that was previously constructed, and as long as it hadn't remained empty since its construction, it had never had a tenant. We had people from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Amanda Eisberner, that was very helpful as well. People at Oakland County like Michael Abdallah that were very helpful in this process as well. There was a lot to cut through on this. It's frankly been a lot of fun for me personally from the standpoint of being very interested in public administration and being a bit of a geek here. I've had a lot of chance to learn about a lot of different things through this process. It's been very interesting, and those people were instrumental in helping us get to where we're at tonight, and I want to say thank you to them publicly. But the thing that makes it really a little bit different is the speculative building aspect of it. It's something that hasn't happened many times in Oakland County and has never happened in Wixom.
Well, I was going to say, there's those first 2 items that's unique. It's not unprecedented, though.
It is not.
Okay, it's happened, just very rare.
Right, and then on top of that, just as a kind of unique situation, the gentleman from BKG, Conrad Shuey, who had informed me at first that he had been involved with a prior interaction and that had resulted in a tax exempt certificate on a speculative building, introduced me to Janae Jenkins, basically got me connected with her. I made some phone calls. She got back to me and explained a couple things. I followed up with Mr. Shuey and said, here's what we need to do. And he's like, that's not what we did last time. And I said, I know. There were some things that were learned at the state level as well, and some processes that were tweaked that resulted in new changes to that. So it was even new under that circumstance as well. So this is pretty interesting and pretty unusual. But it has happened in a couple different locations in the county, but not many times.
Certainly not yet.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Something you just said made me think of something. So we have 2 different tax abatements that we're looking at, correct?
Correct.
So the tenant improvements and the real property. Is there a reason why they're 2 separate and they're not together?
Yes, that was part of the process that was explained to me by Janae Jenkins at the state, and she's with the Michigan Department of Treasury, by the way. Basically, she said because of the timing difference, the fact that the building was constructed in prior years, and the tenant improvements would be happening at a point in the future, even beyond where we're at right now, the difference in time resulted in the need to have 2 separate processes, 2 separate certificates for the speculative building and then for the tenant improvements later.
Okay.
And that's part of the process change, I think. Yes.
Anybody else? All right.
Otherwise, I'll introduce, I believe, Mr. John Tracy, who's the CEO with Blue Water Technologies Group, is going to come up and talk to us from the podium and tell us a little bit about Blue Water and what brings them to this point of potentially making Wixom their new home.
Great, thank you, Mr. Brown, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
John Tracy, 3388 Circle Drive, that's in Commerce Township, 48302. Good evening.
Good evening.
As Mr. Brown said, John Tracy, I'm the CEO of Blue Water Technologies. And it's truly my pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about Blue Water, so that you have a better idea of who we are, and I think you will by the time I'm done tonight. I'm going to spend a little bit of time to tell you who we are, what we do, what our plans are for the future, and then lastly, why it's a good idea to have Blue Water as part of the Wixom community. So first off, to kick things off, tell you about a little who we are. Right? We're a different company, for sure, right? We're engineers, we're audio techs, we're video techs, we're software developers, we're graphic designers, we're project managers. We're a unique and a really fun company. We're just different. We're proud of our history and our family heritage. It goes back 34 strong years when 2 brothers got together out of their garage. They bought some carts from Kmart, decided they were going to put some TVs together, attach some VCRs to it, and then pedal the stuff off to Ford Motor Company and try and rent them for the day. They did, and they took these TVs and VCRs out at like 7 o'clock and had them back by 4 o'clock because they were borrowing them from neighbors. So they had them back on the shelves by 5 o'clock news. Today, that business that started off very humbly in a Redford garage, it's grown immensely. We have about 220 employees, 5 offices, 4 states, and Blue Water is proudly women-owned. And we operate 4 diverse, yet very dynamic and complementary business units. Workplace technology, which is AV integration, meetings and events, technology-forward retail fixtures and displays, and also high-end fabrication of corporate and cultural environments. So we have a group that literally will design, consult, and construct and install museums. Cool stuff, and they do that out of the Grand Rapids office. The real value of having these 4 mature and growing business units is that it positions us uniquely with our customers to provide solutions that help them connect with their employees and customers by supporting sensory storytelling through digital and physical canvases. Okay? And we have an incredibly impressive client list. Ford, GM, Walmart, Carhartt, City of Wixom. I can go on and on, Wells Fargo, I can go on and on and on. That's just to name a few. But what truly differentiates Blue Water from some other companies is our culture. So when I came on board about 2.5 years ago, one of the things I did right away was I wanted to define what the culture was of the company. It was very simple. It's a people-caring performance culture. It's a family-oriented company. We consider all of our 220 employees, they're all family members, every single one of them. And we go out of our way to make sure that they have a very unique experience when they walk in the door. It's full of energy and it's full of fun. No matter what office it is, they have fun and we have fun. Our vision, it's pretty simple, and I wish more people had this. It's to make people smile. On its face, it seems pretty simple, right? Would make people smile, really? Yeah. It's that simple, because you know that if you ever interact with somebody, and when you're done with that interaction, if that person is smiling, you did something right. And that's what we strive for every single day, and we live those values. And we think that's pretty important, and I love that vision. We've been awarded several Great Places to Work awards, for multiple different outlets. And we've also won some awards for our substantive work, both locally and nationally. If you've ever been down to the auto show down in Detroit, if you walk through GM, everything that you see in all the GM brands, that's all Blue Water. All of that is. All the technology, the staging, lighting, the audio equipment, that's all us. So, that's Blue Water in a nutshell. A little bit about why we're here today. So we have a headquarters, and we've been there since 2000 in Southfield. We also have one in Farmington Hills. We had to get the Farmington Hills facility because we were outgrowing our Southfield facility. So what we're attempting to do here is we need to bring everybody underneath one roof into a more state-of-the-art headquarters that provides ability for us to grow. Okay? It's going to bring 160 new jobs to the city of Wixom, with several more being added over 3 years, 5 years. Going to be signing a 15-year lease, so we're going to be here for the long haul. There's going to be a whole lot of jobs that are going to be created. And our growth plan is going to be very realistic, and it's impressive. We expect revenue growth to be between 15 and 20% year over year over the next 3 years. So that's a little bit about why we want to come here. Why does it make sense for the city to fit with Blue Water? Well, it's not just about bringing revenue and jobs to the city. We're a different company. A lot of us at Blue Water, we're already embedded within this community. I live in Commerce, 4 miles from here. Majority shareholders of our company, they live in the greater Wixom area. Many of our senior leaders live in this area. My son graduated from Walled Lake Western. We just hired a teacher who just retired from Walled Lake Western. Just the other day, I was across the street looking at townhouses behind Ballard. We're going to be here, and we're going to be here for the long haul. And when we set up shop, we set up shop. That's what we do. I think the first time, Steve, I met you was 2 seasons ago at the Summer Concert Series.
Right.
Who would have thought that little harmless little conversation would have led to where we are today? But here we are. But here's the other thing that Blue Water does. We're going to have a much broader impact on the Wixom community, right? Through charity and community involvement. That's something that's important for us. It's just embedded in our genes. It's in our DNA. It's what we do. We love making a difference in the community that we work in and where we live. We have a program that's called Blue Water Gives, and we work with, through this program, we work with several charitable causes throughout the state of Michigan, mostly local, and we help support through volunteer support, AV, whatever they may need for AV needs, whether they need help, they need equipment, whatever it is, we provide it. Financial contributions, whatever it may be, just to kind of give you a general idea of some of the other stuff that we do. Every holiday season, we adopt a needy family. And what we want to do, if they don't have the wherewithal to have a Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is they're celebrating, we adopt them and we make sure that those kids have it. And this year we adopted a family. It just so happens they were from this area. And kids went to Walled Lake Western. And I can tell you, that's the best part of the job, is when now, unfortunately, I can be there, the ladies who are here from Blue Water can tell you, strolling up to a house where kids were not going to have a very Merry Christmas, and here they come with all these presents, and to see the tears and everything flow from them, that's what Blue Water is about. The other thing that we're going to provide for the city of Wixom, a much more diverse business landscape. We're unlike any other company, and I can tell you we're unlike any other company in Wixom. And how do I know that? Because we've been looking at all the surrounding communities, and we know there's nothing like us anywhere around this area. We're a very unique technology-based company. With that, we're also going to be educating, providing new opportunities to the Wixom community for at least 15 years. So we're in this for the long haul, and we're anxious to utilize the talent that exists right here. And we're going to help grow that technological expertise in this area. It's just what we do. We set up shop, and we're here for good. So I'm looking at the time. I'm going to wrap it up here real quick, but I just wanted to again, reiterate, we're super excited about the opportunity to come to Wixom. Being a family-run company, here's the ask. The ask is that we need to make continued investments to grow and to hire more folks. And to do so, it's imperative that we get this tax abatement. And so my ask of the board today is that you approve the Tax Abatement Review Committee's recommendation. So with that, thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, I'll stay here for a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, are we going to wait until our agenda item?
Yeah, I think we're going to wait, but now
That's
we have 4 separate public hearings, correct? So
Correct.
we have to do each one separate?
Correct.
Okay, very good. All right, so the first item under public hearing is a public hearing for BKG Beck LLC to request and establish an industrial development district for 30303 Beck Road. The city recently received an application for industrial facilities tax exemption certificate submission that included multiple applications from 2 parties. This public hearing is to address the application from BKG Beck LLC, which requested 2 actions in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended. Specifically, this public hearing will cover the request from BKG Beck LLC to establish an industrial development district, or IDD, at 30303 Beck Road under Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended. Establishing an IDD would then allow the city council to consider an issuance of an industrial facilities tax exemption certificates for the building and the tenant improvements as applied for by the prospective tenant of the building at 30303 Beck Road, Blue Water Technologies Group, Inc. After the public hearing is held, the city council can consider new business number 1 with the proposed resolution to establish the IDD for 30303 Beck Road.
Questions or anything?
We have any questions up here? All right, we'll close public hearing number 1. We'll go to public hearing number 2, which is a public hearing for BKG Beck LLC to request to reorganize the building at 30303 Beck Road as a speculative building. Okay, the city recently received the application for industrial facilities tax exemption certificate to submission that included multiple applications from 2 parties. This public hearing is to address the application from BKG Beck LLC, which has requested 2 actions in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended. Specifically, this public hearing will cover the request from BKG Beck LLC to recognize the building at 30303 Beck Road, previously constructed in 2018 as a speculative building for the purpose of establishing an industrial development district at the location and considering Public Act 198 tax abatement requests on said building. Any questions? All right, I'll close public hearing number 2, open public hearing number 3. And it's a public hearing for Blue Water Technologies Group, Inc. request for an industrial facilities exemption for the speculative building at 30303 Beck Road. The city recently received an application for industrial facilities tax exemption certificate submission that included multiple applications from 2 different parties. This public hearing is to address the application from Blue Water Technologies Group, Inc., which requests the issuance of Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate, IFEC, under Public Act 198 of 1974 for the previously constructed building at 30303 Beck Road. The cost of construction of this building, previously completed in 2018, is estimated at $6,173,193 as reflected on the application. The value of any IFEC on this building will be dependent on the actual valuation of the building. After the public hearing is held, the City Council can consider new business item number 3 with a proposed resolution to authorize the issuance of an 8-year IFEC to Blue Water for a previously constructed speculative building located at 30303 Beck Road. Question? All right, I'll close public hearing number 3, open public hearing number 4, which is a public hearing for Blue Water Technologies Group, Inc. to request an industrial facilities exemption certificate for tenant improvements to 30303 Beck Road. The city recently received an application for industrial facilities tax exemption certificate submission that includes multiple applications from 2 different parties. This public hearing is to address the application from Blue Water Technologies Group, Inc., which requests the issuance of an industrial facilities exemption certificate, IFEC, under Public Act 198 of 1974 for the tenant improvements that come to the previously constructed building at 30303 Beck Road. The cost of tenant improvements as reflected on the application is $2,650,000. The value of any IFEC on those tenant improvements will be dependent on the increase on the actual valuation of the building resulting from the tenant improvements. After the public hearing is held, the City Council can consider new business item number 4 with the proposed resolution to issue the 8-year IFEC for the tenant improvements to 30303 Beck Road. Any questions? All right.
On each one? Are we supposed to ask questions about each one, or at the end?
Any of them, right. Could have done it on any of them, you can ask them now.
Oh, you can ask now?
Or during the items on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Did we miss it? My name is Vance McCormick. I live at 2098 Hopkins Drive, and I'm here for the Northridge Estate subdivision. Had some questions about the tax abatement. We wondered how much is a tax abatement and how long does it last on a tax where they don't have to pay taxes?
The recommendation's 8
years.
for these.
I'm sorry?
8 years for each of these.
8
is the
years.
recommendation.
And what is the amount of it?
They're different amounts. The tenant improvements is a little over $2 million, and the actual shell of the building is
So the
between
tax is
6
going to be about $2 million?
Well,
No.
no, that's the valuation of
Oh, okay.
improvements, not of
All
the
right, but it's
tax.
an 8-year, and then how is that money made up? I mean, I can understand a brand-new company coming in that's starting out, getting a tax abatement, but if it's an established company, how do they get the tax abatement? You know, I mean, if they're making $50 million a year or whatever, how do they get a tax abatement from the city?
They made the application, and the application was looked at by the Tax Abatement Committee, and the Tax Abatement Committee looked over all the information and made a recommendation to us.
And how could is that?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, are we debating this now with the applicant or with this gentleman, or are we just listening to his? So we're supposed to interact?
Where can, like, regular citizens find that information? Do they go onto
Well,
that?
you can hear
You can-
the discussion.
yeah, it'll be-
The raise questions,
Yeah.
and with the
Yeah.
interaction can come during the action of the agenda items. You're
Yeah.
just bringing
If
up.
they get
this.
a hold of me, and I said to a lot of them, come to the meeting tonight to find out.
Yep.
So it's 8 years, and then you can establish down the road how much it's going to be.
Yep, that'll all be information, I'm sure that may be discussed later.
Yeah, and that's what they were saying, well, who's going to make that up? Because it'd be us taxpayers, and our taxes go up. But I don't think, is that the way it works?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We'll talk about it more with the agenda items.
Good. I'm going to keep recommending they come to the meetings, but that don't always work. Thank you.
No, Mr. Mayor, if I may, because after years on Planning Commission too, where we have a lot of people, that the intent of public hearing is for people to express their concerns, voice their opinions. We hear them, and then we take into consideration everything we've heard as we're having further debate on the action on the table when we get to the new business.
Well said.
All right, thank you. Next up is approval of minutes from the regular city council meeting scheduled February 11, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Gatchel?
I did have two little changes there on page 3 in my council comments. Prospective should be perspective, and employees should be employees. That was it for those. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other corrections? All right, I got a motion and a second to approve the regular city council meeting minutes of February 11, 2020. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We have no correspondence. First call to the public. I'll read the rules to the call to the public. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence, and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reasoning for addressing the council. And all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Everyone ready for the first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the first call to the public. City managers' reports. We have departmental reports from July 2020. Any questions? All right, next up is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right. I got a motion and a support to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We have no unfinished business, which moves us to new business number 1, a recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the establishment of an industrial development district at 30303 Beck Road in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974, as amended and requested by BKG Beck LLC. A motion?
So moved.
Support? All right, got a motion and support. City manager?
Yeah, so by way of adding to the introduction that was provided earlier during the public hearing here, each one of these items under new business here, 1 through 5, are related to the public hearings that were held earlier in the evening. As was mentioned during the public hearings, there's an action item that's associated with each one of the public hearing that was held, each one of the public hearings that was held earlier. And I'm going to cover just some of the basics from my memo that gets carried over in all of the other action items for the most part. So the Tax Abatement Review Committee, as you know, is a group of volunteer residents and business people in the city that give up their time to participate in that Tax Abatement Review Committee activity, which consists of fielding requests from people at various businesses that are looking to apply for consideration of tax abatement requests for locating a business and potentially bringing new jobs and associated collateral benefit to the city, along with those new developments. And that Tax Abatement Review Committee met on February 7th to review this application there's this packet of applications and requests that are before you tonight. There were 3 applications from the 2 different parties, all pertaining to the property at 30303 Beck Road. There are multiple steps that would be involved in the actions that we're going to have before us tonight, but the requested ultimate outcome of these requests is tax abatements on the 84,440 square foot shell building that's located at that address on Beck Road, and on the tenant improvements to the building that would be performed by the prospective tenant of the building, which is Blue Water Technologies Group Incorporated. Administration prepared the memo that was attached for council's information that had multiple attachments that consisted of the applications. It consisted of an investment analysis, pictures of the proposed industrial development district location, etc. So all of that package was provided in your council meeting packet tonight with agenda item new business number 1. So I'm going to rely on that information that was previously provided. There's a lot of information that was in that packet. The things that I'll kind of summarize from the rest of this memo is the fact that this is kind of a unique first-time recommendation for approving tax abatements associated with a previously constructed building in the city. It's not something that we've done previously. We did consult with the county and the state and other resources and experts on the permissibility and the advisability of that. We got a lot of glowing feedback from people at the state that have worked with Blue Water Technologies Group and people at the county that have worked with them. They aren't really to take positions on these kind of things because they allow the local community to make the decision, but they were very glowing and complimentary towards Blue Water about what a great company it was, and it would be great to have them retained both in Oakland County and in the state of Michigan, and hopefully in the city of Wixom here in the end. There's the 4 previous public hearings that we held, and then the additional action items that'll be before you tonight to review. And this first one is the establishment of an industrial development district for the property located at 30303 Beck. So that's my introduction. City administration is recommending that you proceed in accordance with the Tax Abatement Review Committee recommendation, which was also summarized in the packet. And also later you received the minutes from that meeting of February 7th that was provided over the weekend as well per request from Councilman Gottschall. And the recommended action from the Tax Abatement Review Committee, there was an application for this action to be done, and they did recommend that we proceed with the actions necessary to ultimately lead to the issuance of the industrial facilities exemption certificates for both the speculative building and for the tenant improvements. So the first step would be to have council take action one way or the other on establishing this industrial development district at this location.
Any questions?
I just might add that, municipalities and communities have several tools in their toolbox for promoting economic development, and the establishment of an industrial development district is one of those tools to allow an acceleration of economic development in that community. So this is just one step in the process that MEDC requires.
It goes more to the next. I got them all,
Okay.
When do you wait?
All right.
I'll wait for the next one.
All right.
I guess my only question in relation to all of this would be, looking at the summary, they're not paying no taxes. They're just getting an abatement on their taxes, correct?
Correct. That is correct. So with the tax abatement, there was the question that was raised during the public hearing, or comment that was made during the public hearing about that, and having to make up the shortfall. In essence, typically with an abatement, there's no shortfall per se. It's a matter of trying to attract somebody that may or may not locate to the city without that abatement, right? And if you cannot attract them without the abatement, you're not giving up anything by giving up the abatement. And if you do attract them, you're giving up 50% of the tax revenue, still realizing 50% of the tax revenue. But you would give up a portion of the tax revenue to make it more of an incentive for them to come and do business in your community. This situation is a little bit more unique than your typical situation on that, because we have a previously constructed building that is paying taxes in the city currently. And that tax amount is consistent with the investment analysis that's in attachment 7 of the packet that I provided with this particular item. It's in the ballpark of $155,000, $156,000 is what the current taxable value and revenue associated with it is for the city. And that is a little bit unique in that you would be giving up some revenue on that existing building, but the idea is the same as it is with any other abatement. You're looking to get a facility or a building either constructed or filled in this case, and you're looking to attract jobs that will support the community, potentially bring people to the community, spur home ownership, spur businesses to have additional revenue that comes in when people are doing business at gas stations and restaurants and grocery stores and things of that type. So there's collateral benefit that's associated with development of any location, and that's what the idea behind an abatement is.
follow-up to that, but there's also the personal property taxes that we'll be receiving, correct?
Personal property taxes are not really, there's personal property tax reform that's taken place, and what we've given up that through that reform, but then there's makeup payments that come from the state that I'd like to tell you I understand them, but I don't think anybody does, and that includes our finance director. They're difficult to predict.
But there is something that'll be coming
Yeah,
from
so
there, the revenue.
we get revenue that comes in through some magic formula at the state that literally nobody knows, that will offset the revenue loss from personal property tax. And we've tried to guess year in and year out, and we never hit the number. That's the bad news. The good news is it's consistently higher than we expect. So it works out well, right? So personal property tax is a little bit irrelevant to this particular situation because we're not granting an exemption on that because it's just kind of, it's become kind of passe. It really doesn't make any sense to try to do anything on that anymore because of the reform that's taken place. So it's strictly on the real property. Ultimately, what in the later agenda items will be on the speculative building and the tenant improvements to make that shell of a building livable for the people at Blue Water Technologies for them to do business.
I guess my point was, even if we don't understand the magic formula, that is revenue we're going to be getting by them coming into the building versus them not coming into the building.
Correct. Right. And there's revenue that we lose on the speculative building at the front end, but we also gain money on the tenant improvements because we're going to get 50% of that value, of the added value that comes from those tenant improvements. That was something that Councilman Sharp had asked me, or Councilmember Sharp had asked me. And as I mentioned, the number for to him before the meeting, the number for the city taxes on the speculative building is about $39,000, so that'll get halved, so that we would lose about $19,000 on that. But at the same time, the tenant improvements will create an additional almost $9,000 in revenue, so the real loss on that is around $10,000. Not to get too fine of a point on it.
Good.
That's all I had.
But what we're doing right now is just setting up the district.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good segue, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, thank you so much for spending time with me today to take me through this. It's, as a newbie on council, it's something I haven't seen before, but it sounds like nobody has.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to kind of give you a leading question here, because I think I know the answer already.
Sure.
But if we establish an industrial development district, which is kind of the first step of a tax abatement, if something were to fall through and somebody else tried to sneak in and get a tax abatement in this property, we can always revert the industrial development district to its present designation.
Right.
To kind of halt any.
Right. So it is sequential activity. If we set up the district, then the idea is that you're setting up that district to issue an industrial facilities exemption certificate or certificates, as in this case. However, for some reason, that doesn't happen if the council doesn't approve it, if Blue Water doesn't sign the letter of agreement, and ultimately doesn't make those tenant improvements or doesn't really follow through and obtain the benefit of that IFEC. You can either let that industrial development district stand, or you can take action to terminate the industrial development district if there's nobody that has a certificate active on that district. So if we establish it tonight and nothing comes of it, you can have an action at the next council meeting to revoke or terminate that industrial development district with no harm, no foul, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Cottrell.
Part of that, though, is if things were to go sideways, which hopefully they won't, but the district stands, then someone could go to the state and apply for a tax abatement as well, even if they weren't to come to us for approval of it. So that's kind of the open loophole, essentially, if that were to be left open or unaddressed, that we would be able to revoke it in the future. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, with that, I have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the establishment of an industrial development district at 30303 Beck Road in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended and requested by BKG Beck LLC. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. New business item number 2. There's a recommendation to adopt the resolution recognizing the previously constructed building at 30303 Beck Road as a speculative building in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974, as amended and requested by BKG Beck LLC. A motion?
So moved.
Support.
So I'll talk a lot less on this one. The basic summary that I've covered is already applicable here. The only other thing I'll add is something that was mentioned earlier during the public hearing. The purpose of this particular action is just to recognize that building at 30303 Beck as a speculative building, which requires to basically state that it was constructed but never inhabited by any other business up until this point in time. That is accurate. We have an affidavit from BKG Beck which states that to be true. They've not had a tenant in the building prior to this point in time, and we also have an affidavit from Oakland County as the city's assessor that's also contained in the packet that recognizes that this is a speculative building that was never inhabited by anybody and is eligible for an industrial facilities exemption certificate because of that status.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This goes also to Mr. McCormick's I think concern. I think it's worth making a distinction that it's a speculative building, it exists, but it's a shell, and it's been referred to as such a couple of times. So it's not quite someone coming in and building a brand new building, but Blue Water, they don't have to come here, and the building. It doesn't even have, help me out with this a little bit, Steve.
Sure.
It doesn't even have a floor, a concrete
Correct.
floor yet. I mean, it's really just a starter building. And
It's
it's going to
literally a
get
pea
a
shell.
lot done to it to get it to where Blue Water, will fit them. So I think that was an important distinction from what you hear, especially since those, the unique item about this being a speculative building, but it's, I don't know, very speculative.
Right. It is literally just an empty shell currently. The outside shell is all that really is on site.
Yeah, so I guess there's no question, it's more of a clarification then.
Right.
Thanks.
I'm not talking, I'm done.
Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was on Planning Commission when this building was approved as a speculative building, and the Planning Commission was surprised not only how, at the presentation, the size of the lot, the size of the building, and then how fast it went up. I mean, it was up in, I think if you look at the timeline, it was like 9 months or something from the approval to building. So it's clear in my mind, it was built with the expectation that it would be occupied. That they didn't build it and then hope, I'll wait 2 years and then get a tax abatement on it. If you drove down Beck Road again today, it's going to look better filled than not filled. Over time, it's just not going to be attractive. There's some debate on that now, but.
Well, I know there is some exterior improvements going to be made to it too.
Thank you, that's all.
Councilmember Behrman.
That was actually going to be my question, is maybe to the applicant, what exterior changes are going to be happening to make this look less like a speculative building and more like your world-class headquarters?
Windows, and more of them, a lot more of them. So more on the first floor, we're going to plan we're probably putting at least 17 more in there that are, I don't know, 5 feet wide, 5 feet tall, but we need more windows in there. We need a good environment, and we know that aesthetically, that's what we need as well. It ain't gonna look like what it looks like now when we're done with it.
Thank you, that was my question.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to adopt a resolution recognizing the previously constructed building at 30303 Beck Road as a speculative building in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974, as amended and requested by BKG Beck LLC. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. New business number 3 is a recommendation to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of an 8-year industrial facilities exemption certificate for real property consisting of the speculative building at 30303 Beck Road in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974, as amended and as requested by Blue Water Technologies Group Incorporated. So a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Very good.
So again, the same basic introduction applies. This particular item is associated with the third public hearing, and it's requesting that you take action to issue an industrial facilities exemption certificate for the speculative building at 30303 Beck Road that was recognized earlier. Additional information that I'll provide on the specifics related to this. The cost of the building as it was constructed is the basis of the estimate for the industrial facilities exemption certificate right now, and that's based on the construction cost that was provided by BKG Beck of $6,173,193. Again, that's going to be ultimately dependent on what the actual taxable value of the property or the building is, but in association with that, there are taxes that would normally have been generated if it was taxed at the full rate, and then there is the amount of taxes that would be realized under this abatement. So right now, the first year taxes on this building at $6,173,000 is about $160,000. The abatement level is $79,928, basically $80,000. That we would get over the first however many years get approved tonight, if it gets approved. We started off in the application with a request from Blue Water Technologies Group for a 12-year tax abatement, which is the maximum allowable under Public Act 198 and our rules. The Tax Abatement Review Committee recommended that and I'm sorry, I should say one more thing. The administration presented the possibility of doing a 10-year tax abatement, and the Tax Abatement Review Committee recommended that we proceed with an 8-year tax abatement on the building, and that's the recommendation that's before you tonight, consistent with that Tax Abatement Review Committee action. So when you do the math on that, the speculative building would have over an 8-year period, you multiply it by the 80,000, and you're looking at in the neighborhood of, and I don't have my revised spreadsheet in front of me here, but you'd have that dollar amount that would be the value to the applicant, but on a yearly basis, it's $79,928. The city portion of that, the investment on the city's part that we're foregoing on tax revenue, is $20,376. And you do that by the same 8-year period, and you would have the total that it would cost for the city.
Councilmember Gatchel.
Thank you. I am generally supportive of this. Back when I first got on council, we had a flurry of abatements coming at us, a lot of just small interior remodels that I wasn't a fan of. But I kind of always mentally knew I'd be more supportive of new construction and attracting building and a business to Wixom. So that's why I'm supportive of this. I just wish that we would have had this discussion of an abatement years ago when the building was in the planning phase. I know we had BKG in here to talk about construction bonding issues a few years ago when rates were changing with the previous city manager. But I think we could have had a much more substantive conversation about the aesthetic appearance of the building at that time. All of those other buildings on Beck Road had to follow the same code, that there's masonry front on those, and this building was precast. So it stands out. Hopefully the addition of windows will make it look much better. It feels like we're being asked to help get a deal done because things didn't work out immediately. But setting that aside, I'm still supportive of this abatement. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else?
I'll do my comments now as well. When over the last couple of years, driving up and down Beck Road and seeing that building empty, it's been fuel for some of my passion on the Beck Road widening task force, saying we've got 85,000 square feet that's uninhabited. So some tax money is better than no tax money. The other thing is the intangible benefits of attracting 160 new employees to the city. Our Alex's Pizzeria gets more lunchtime business, La Casita, the restaurants do a lot greater. Young families, and I understand that the average salaries at Blue Water are on the higher end, So young couples, young families move in. We've got, 2 new developments right there in the Village Center area, and Mr. Tracy himself said he was looking at townhomes. So the intangible benefits are there to attracting 160 to 200 new employees. One challenge I want to issue to Mr. Tracy is we currently have 8 existing abatements that are active, and one thing in a lot of the requests and the discussions you have in the Tax Abatement Committee that you will support the community. And in your own words, you have a culture of charitable giving and donations. Only one of those existing tax abatement companies actually lives up to their vow to support the local programs. And what I'm talking about is the Parks and Rec programs, and you were at some concerts in the park yourself. Our DDA as well. Only one of those companies actually has lived up to it. With the investment that the city's bringing, I challenge you to step up and set a new bar for tax abatement type companies to actually give to those programs and support them, not just in the first year. So, yep, please, yep.
Challenge accepted, and that's an easy one.
Great.
I can tell you that. I mean, across the street, every time I've gone to the concert series, me being an AV guy, I listen to the sound coming out of there, and it drives me absolutely bananas. So
Super.
We will absolutely be part of it. You have my word on
Great,
that.
and there's other programs too that our DDA, Parks and Rec have besides the concert series that.
I already talked to my friend Eddie, who owns the Marathon Station, and he's already got me down the path of some other ideas as well.
Super.
Yeah.
I applaud you for that. Good. Good.
Should have brought one of my golf outing flyers.
And the other thing too is we have our Oakland Tech West campus right there off of Beck Road, and if there's a way to tie in some of the students, whether it's a learning opportunity or internships or get into the program where they're working with some of the AV technologies, that'd be great to do. So
I've already been
thank you.
thinking that way.
Super. Great. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Grenville Fox.
Thank you for bringing those up. Those were some of my questions I had as well, so I'm glad to hear that you're going to be supporting the community for the long haul. Actually, I do have a couple other questions, please. Actually, I guess just one now. But you had mentioned 162, I think, employees that would be transferred to this location.
Correct.
Do you have any idea where the majority of those employees live?
60%, actual communities?
In which communities, yes?
60% of our employees live on this side of Telegraph. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have quite a few folks who live as far away as Mount Clemens, New Baltimore, downriver. A company like ours, we're going to be attracting talent from all over. So with a move like this, and I think I know where you're leading with it, yeah, there's going to be people who are going to be moving, for sure.
Okay. And then actually, I do have one other question. You had talked about approximately 20 new jobs in the next 4 years.
40.
40 jobs?
I believe it's 40 new.
Oh, even better. Do you know which, what types of jobs will those be?
They're all going to be tech-based jobs. Like I said,
Tech-based?
Tech-based. So they could be project managers, project coordinators, they could be audio tech, video techs, they could be accountants. As we grow, we're going to need the support to make sure that all those other positions are filled as well.
Great, thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Councilmember Smiley.
More just a comment that I support this tax abatement. Be gratifying, to have Blue Water, stay in Michigan, let alone come to Wixom. Wixom's a great tech town. Michigan's a great tech state, and it's a nice fit here, for both parties. So without rehashing everything we've talked about, I'm very satisfied with how we've fleshed out all the questions, and I support it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Spartashaw. Go ahead.
Generally, I'm in support of this as well. It sounds like everything I can read about your company is promising, and I really do hope that you keep your commitment to the community. You did say starting with 160, potentially adding 40. How many jobs can that facility hold, do you see? Where will you max out and be looking for a second facility?
So hopefully we're not going to be looking for a second facility, right? If we do, that's probably a really, really good problem for me to have. But where we're at now, there's plenty of capacity for expansion there. If we need to build a second floor, we can build a second floor. So 160 is just going on one floor. If we need to go north, we can go north as well.
In this shell of the building, you can do so?
We're only going one story right now. And about 30,000 foot is going to be office, the rest of it warehouse, very high warehouse. So we can probably take some of that warehouse space as well for office space, and we can break into the warehouse and build some more office space if need be.
That answered my question, thank you.
Welcome.
If he needs more space, we got 180 acres just down the road that we can get him interested in.
Mr. Mayor, I did find one more question that I didn't get to ask Mr. Tracy while I was up here, but in the future, when Messick is outgrown, and your production facility, we do have 182 acres.
I would love to have that facility down here. Yeah, it's too far.
I've done the drive many times.
Anybody else? All right, very good. So I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance of an 8-year industrial facilities exemption certificate for real property consisting of the speculative building at 30303 Beck Road in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended and is requested by Blue Water Technologies Group Incorporated. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business number 4. It's a recommendation to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of an 8-year industrial facilities exemption certificate for tenant improvements to the speculative building at 30303 Beck Road in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended and requested by Blue Water Technologies Group Incorporated. No motion?
So moved.
Support?
Motion and support?
So, Your Honor, just real quickly, this is the second industrial facilities exemption certificate request in association with the second application from Blue Water Technologies Group. We talked about the cost of the building at $6,173,000, and the cost of the tenant improvements is estimated at $2,650,000. And there's an associated value with that as well on the value to the company for the tax break that would be spread over the recommended 8 years, as well as the investment by the city. And I do have those numbers on that. I want to go over those quickly. The total value of the two would be around $913,915 as presently projected. The 8-year investment for the city is right in the ballpark of $233,000. That's in total, and the split between the two pieces make up that value. So these tenant improvements, the dollar amount is in the ballpark of $274,000 in value to the company, and about $70,000 in investment on the city's part over the entire 8 years. Yearly, it's an $8,747 improvement for the investment by the city. In total, it's $34,000 for Blue Water Technologies for the 50% tax abatement if it's granted. And again, just to reiterate, the value of the IFEC will ultimately be determined by the impact that the tenant improvements have on the taxable value of the property. So these are just the estimates. The actual value of that will depend on how much the value of the property goes up in association with those tenant improvements. But these are just for estimate purposes only. So administration's recommending approval of this as well in association with the Tax Abatement Review Committee's recommendation of an 8-year abatement on the tenant improvements.
Any questions? All right, good. I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance of an 8-year industrial facilities exemption certificate for the tenant improvements to the speculative building at 30303 Beck Road in accordance with Public Act 198 of 1974 as amended and requested by Blue Water Technologies Group, Inc. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. New business number 5 is a recommendation to authorize a letter of agreement with Blue Water Technologies Group Incorporated regarding the industrial facilities exemption certificates and authorize the execution of the agreement by the mayor and city clerk. For a motion?
So moved.
Support.
So real quickly, the agreement before you is attached to our new business number 5, and I'm going to cover the significant points that are covered in the agreement. The certificates will be issued for 8 years under the agreement. As a result of the agreement, Blue Water's planning to add an additional 40 full-time jobs at the facility and attempt to use the city as a city of businesses as vendors for their other business. They will submit a yearly schedule indicating their compliance relative to those job projections. They commit to supporting the Walled Lake Consolidated School District and the Oakland Technical Center, as well as the City of Wixom's events and cultural initiatives as a part of the agreement. There's a percentage payback that's required if any of these provisions aren't met on the jobs front. And if anything were to happen with Blue Water moving out of the city before the term of the agreement is over, there's a payback requirement on the industrial facilities exemption certificate savings, which starts at 100% and declines by 12.5% per year over the 8 years of the agreement. So there's all those provisions are provided in the agreement as protection to the city, including the last one, which talks about an ownership transfer, at which time the city has the option to either terminate the IFEC or open up negotiations with the subsequent company to see if we want to entertain the notion of letting them take advantage of that for the duration of the agreement. So those are the protections that are in there. Consistent with the prior actions, administration is recommending that, again, consistent with the recommendation of the Tax Abatement Review Committee, again, to approve the execution of this letter agreement with Blue Water for these IFECs.
Councilmember Grenville Fox.
Steve?
Yes.
This, the provision about the payback, the 12.5% per year, is that the clawback agreement? Is that basically what that is?
Correct. So if they don't follow through on the full terms of the agreement in terms of staying in the city, then you can get payment back on the discount that was applied on taxes previously.
Thank you.
Get money paid back to the city.
Anybody else?
Maybe just to add to that, we have done that in the past as
Right.
well. So.
That's why we have attorneys, to make sure that happens.
Anybody else? All right, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to authorize a letter of agreement with Blue Water Technologies Group Incorporated regarding industrial facilities exemption certificates and authorize the execution of the agreement by the mayor and city clerk. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're pleased to have you.
Happy to be here.
All right, moving on. I don't have to say Public Act 198 anymore.
Something to be grateful for.
Authorization to purchase an influent pump station pump of Flight 320 to replace Pump 1 from Kennedy's Industries of Milford, Michigan as the sole source provider for $40,975. Roll motion.
So moved.
Support?
Thanks. Councilmember Gaccio.
Since it's sole source, do we need to use the waive the bid process wording? Because that's usually when we do it.
As a sole source, yes, we should have, I guess we should have that. This pump was actually going to be a replacement pump for one that was, well, all our influent pumps are flight pumps. And this one in particular was going to initially be just a repair, but when the costs for repairs exceed the 50% mark, we usually go with buying a new one rather than replacing it with 15 to a 20-year-old pump. And the warranties that are for a repair pump is only like 6 months, and this one is over 3 years. So we elected to go with the purchase of this, and it's a sole source. So yes, I guess we would need to.
So the language change will say authorization to add the following words: waive the bid process and purchase.
Yes.
That we're looking for.
Thank you.
Do we have to amend the motion in a second, or are we good with that, or?
I can do that.
Okay. Okay. And this is, go ahead, no, go ahead. Councilmember Resnick.
So we've gotten 20 years out of the original pump, right?
Pump, yes, I believe this pump has actually been rebuilt once, and
Okay.
it goes. Yeah, we try and pull them pull them once a year, make sure everything is working on them, but I believe this one has been
What's the expected life out of this?
usually
new
10
one?
years and then rebuild and try and get another one out of it,
Right.
another, cycle out of it. And it's just like a car, it depends on the mileage.
Right.
And, we are utilizing our influent pumps more now. We're breaching our capacity limits, if you will, or what are we averaging? 2.3 million gallons a day, and our daily average design is 2.8. So we're coming up close to that, and peak hours we're running over 4 million to 5 million gallons a day. So they're getting their use now.
And I think that it's worthwhile to continue the public message, and I think I've talked to folks about this, and that it's a toilet, not a trash can. Flushable wipes are not flushable, and those messages need to be reiterated, because that puts a lot of extra load on these influent pumps that people don't realize. You find plastic bags wrapped around the impellers and everything else.
Yes.
And I think we need to keep that going in our crossroads and on our website as well. So.
Well,
And real quickly, the rule of thumb on this is if it costs more than half of the replacement cost, then we start to evaluate whether it makes sense to replace the pump in its entirety as opposed to doing a rebuild, and that this reached that magic number with the impeller damage that was experienced with this one, so.
Councilmember Behrman?
My only question was, with most of these, we see the financial summary is in budget, not in budget, does it require an amendment? Is this budgeted for?
This particular one is part of the capital, the 10-year capital. It's a little early on that 10-year capital, but it would become, or the finances would come out of the enterprise fund for the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
So yes, in a sense, we have it budgeted.
You're right, the box is missing, I apologize. We had a lot of stuff going on, I apologize.
Just curious.
That's why
I thought maybe I missed it.
just an oversight, so
No.
we'll make sure we fix that, so.
And hey, Tim, this is for the pump only, there'll be an additional charge to install it, correct?
So, yeah, the 40,000 was for the pump itself, and then the $975 is
Okay.
for the install.
And will that pump last 2 to 3 months?
That one that does have a guarantee, I believe it's 3 years.
But it's a 10 to 12-week lead time to get this pump,
It
right?
is.
Are we going to be good with that?
We are good with that.
Okay.
Yep, we do have three other pumps there, so
Very good.
we should be good.
Any other questions? All right. I got a motion and support to approve the authorization and waive the bid process and purchase an influent pump station pump, a Flight 320, to replace pump number 1 from Kennedy Industries of Milford, Michigan, as the sole source provider for $40,975. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. New business number 7, a recommendation to award the bid to Posh Window Fashion and Interiors LLC of Southfield, Michigan for the replacement of window treatments at City Hall in the amount of $8,653.53. A motion.
So moved.
Support.
Very good. Any questions? Oh, we'll leave that decision up to the clerk.
Okay.
Councilmember Gottschall.
Are the current window treatments just scheduled because they're old, or are they not functioning, period?
They're actually, were installed back in 1992, so they're over 25 years old.
Are they not working?
They do pull, I mean, you can actually close them, but we did block into the capital plan replacement of those window treatments last year. And we did come in under budget.
Okay. I appreciate that. I just, again, following with previous comments about spending money around here, I know it's a relatively small amount overall, but not something that I'm in favor of if they are still in working condition. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was going to tease, they need to have an AKA name, Bare Bones Window Fashions or something like that, because that's sending the wrong message for governmental purchase there, so.
All right, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to award a bid to Posh Window Fashions and Interiors
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I guess
Councilmember Sherp.
if they're bare bones and they still work, why are we swapping them out? Just
It's
because they're
basically just from
expensive?
a reinvestment standpoint, right? So the same reason that we replace carpeting that has rips in it, sure, it's functional, but it's problematic if it presents a bad image. They have the look of 70s era smoking establishments is what I would call it. They have a very, they used to be white, but they're yellow, and it wasn't on purpose. So it's strictly, it is aesthetics, but it is a matter of trying to keep the facility upgraded and up to date so it doesn't get too far out of current. It's really just continuing that. We've invested in a new coat of paint, we've invested in new carpet squares, we've invested in a lot of things to replace furniture that was fully functional as well, that looked like something out of the 70s that just didn't present a good image for the city. So I can appreciate the concerns about the expenditure of money, and if you decide it's not something that's worthwhile, that's fine with me. The reason it was put forward was to be consistent and have a good professional, consistent look to the building and not have something look out of place, which is what they are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rez?
Just one final comment is, I know that the existing ones are the old vertical technology that every time you drive by them, half of them are cattywampus, and it looks really bad from Pontiac Trail. But the new ones are upgraded, and they're going to be roller.
They're roller shades.
Okay.
They are just like the ones in the community center. I've seen them.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to award a bid to Pox Windows Fashion and Interiors LLC of Southfield, Michigan for the replacement of window treatments at City Hall in the amount of $8,653.53. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Councilmember Smiley,
Yes.
Mayor Beagle,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Resnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Behrman,
Yes.
Councilmember Gaccho,
No.
Councilmember Grenlund Fox,
Yes.
Councilmember Sharp,
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. Motion passes. All right, second call to the public. I'm not going to read the second rules for the call to the public in. If there's anybody that wishes to address the council, come on up. This is your time. All right, seeing none, I'm going to go to city manager's comments.
Real briefly, our next council meeting is going to be on an odd date because of the election being scheduled for Tuesday, March 10th, and that has an impact on this room. So our first council meeting in March will actually take place on a Wednesday on March 11th. There are 6 city employees that are celebrating years of service to the city, ranging from 1 year to 29 years. So congratulations to all of them for all their years of service. We appreciate their devotion to working for the city and to providing service for our residents and our business community. We have an item on here too, notifying council that we have the Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce. Their annual State of the Lakes function is coming up on Tuesday, March 31st, so please mark your calendars. Once we get a formal invitation, we'll pass that on to council members to make sure that you're aware of it. And then the other thing that I'm going to add on to the city manager's update that wasn't there because of the timing, very exciting, the Beck Road Widening Task Force work is continuing to have an impact. We had gotten together with the city of Novi and including Northville Township to recruit them into a group of communities that are going to work to widen Beck Road from sometimes 2 lanes, sometimes 3 lanes to 5 lanes. The first step in that process is the filing of a infra grant that was just completed yesterday. We actually did submit the grant yesterday after a ton of work by a lot of people at the city and a lot of people at Novi. And our consultant, Bill Hanka, who is working with us on that. I want to say thank you to him and to everybody that's on the Beck Road Widening Task Force, including our own Councilmember Gotchel and Councilmember Deputy Mayor Tom Resnick. We've got people from the business community on there. We have consultants on there. I have the opportunity to sit on the task force. We've been doing a lot of work over the past several years, meeting and trying to move this project forward, and I'm excited that we've taken the first step and submitted this grant application to Infra. The projected cost of this step of the project, which is an overpass over the railroad at Beck Road, is $22,200, or $22 million, I wish it was $22,000, $22,265,000. And there will be local match required if we are successful. It will require other grant sources to continue this project, even if we are successful on this infra grant. We recently participated in a DC lobbying trip where we made a trip to Washington, DC, and met with our congressional members of the legislature there, with senators, with Congress members, with members of the administration and the Department of Transportation. I think that trip was an excellent one. I think it's going to be very helpful. I think that it definitely improved our chances of being successful on this grant and future grants. The mayor attended with me. Deputy Mayor Resnick also attended, and other people from Novi and other people from the city, including business representatives like Kevin Hinckley, our former mayor, Kyle Fitzpatrick of Moeller participated as well. Novi brought members of their business community. It was a great contingent, and I think we did a lot of good work in getting the word out about what this project could mean to the cities involved and to the township and to the area beyond. And I'm very excited that we took our first step and filed the infra grant. And we will know much sooner than we thought. The deadline was much sooner than we thought. So everything's kind of coming together for us to have an opportunity to find out where we stand on this pretty quickly. So just wanted to provide that update as well.
Very good.
Thanks.
Councilmember comments. Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, I got a few things here. Welcome to Blue Water. But I also want to say thank you to the Tax Abatement Review Committee. It occurred to me during this process, they did a lot of work on this project. Also, Mr. Brown and his staff, I appreciate the extra time you put in, sir, and working on the weekend and answering so many questions from us up here at the dais.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you seem to enjoy it too much. A couple of little things. Congresswoman Haley Stevens visited Sarah Banks last week. She had a mental health town hall. I know Mr. Mayor Beagle was there as well. I appreciate her visit. It was and for all the people on the panel, there were mental health professionals. It was informative and I enjoyed it. Wixom Wine Taste is Friday. You said that. That's going to be fun. I always enjoy that. We'll see you then. Snow day tomorrow, so be careful out there, for Wall Lake schools, that is. And Ms. Buck, I'm going to be missing the Wednesday council meeting next time around on the 11th, so please excuse me. One last thing. Earlier, someone asked something about budget dates, and it looked like you maybe had some in mind. Do you have that ready?
We do not have them established yet.
Okay. It's coming, right?
It is. It will be coming soon.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing on the snow day, you mentioned that when the Walled Lake Consolidated School District is closed, so is our senior function, so there won't be any senior activities tomorrow. I should have mentioned that. So.
Thank you.
Councilmember Behrman.
I'm excited to see that building starting to get developed. I wish you guys nothing but the best and welcome to Wixom. The only other comment I had was just regarding where the airline trail ends at Wixom Road. I know that sidewalk came in front of us a few months ago, and we decided not to go down Wixom on the east side. But has there been any movement on at least doing a crosswalk there, so it's safe for the trail to end? Right now it just sort of ends and there's like 2 feet of gravel in the street. And I've seen people crossing there, but I mean, there's no marked crosswalk.
Crosswalk across Wixom?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to take a look at that and see how advisable or possible that is. That's a conundrum right now, because typically you'd have a signalization there as part of the trail system, as we've done in other spots on Phase 1 with the hawk or a rapidly flashing beacon crossing that would probably be in order there. So we can check in to see if there's any other options, but there's no good options there as it stands.
Or possibly just adding a barrier so people aren't just going out onto the street, because right now it just sort of ends.
Yeah, we can take a look at what we can do there. In the long run, we want to get that second phase started and completed and have that proper crossing equipment installed, that'll be that part of that next process.
If I could just add one comment to that. During the block party, I had erected a temporary sign that just stated head south to the signal. I know we defeated the
Right.
sidewalk, but maybe as spring approaches, people can go down the dirt path.
Yeah.
At least be aware that there is a safe crossing at the light.
We were evaluating the
Temporary
signage there.
sign.
We'll revisit it and see what we need to put there. I think that makes sense.
Sorry, not to intervene on your council comments, you just kind of triggered a few things.
That's all I had, you guys can all.
I think there's a painted crosswalk across there that I noticed the other day. I'm not exactly positive that my memory is correct on that or not, but I remember before the project was still in the planning phase, going to a meeting on the city's behalf. There was a giant map of where signals would go, and that was one of the locations. So I think we need to get with the Trailway Council and kind of hold their feet to the fire to get a hot signal there. It is a safety issue, and it is something that, at least in early days, they were discussing. I don't know why every other city can have a main road, get signals, but when you come to Wixom, you can't get anything. And then I hope that sidewalks being included for our 2020 projects as well.
I was going to kind of try to comment on that as well, right? That it wasn't that it was so much rejected, it was rejected at that time from the standpoint of not having gone out for bid. So we're still going to go forward with that, and it'll take place in the spring when we try to bid that out, so.
Do you have any other council members? Go ahead.
Given some of the confusion or discussion earlier with the public hearings and having residents or folks come ask questions, that also occurs quite frequently with our COLA public sessions as well. I understand from a resident or a citizen perspective, it's tough to come to our meetings and know exactly what you need to talk about if you don't have the information we have. So I get where the questions come from. I'd like to revisit, now that we have a bunch of new council members, the potential of putting our packets online before meetings, obviously excluding the confidential information, the attorney-client privilege information, but as much as we can. That way, when people come to our meetings to speak about a topic, they have the same information we're working from. That way, we can have a better discussion with them. So maybe a discussion about that at some point. Then something else that I ran into earlier this morning, actually, when I visited the building department and economic development, doing some work research. Right now, when you purchase a property and you close, you have 45 days to submit your property transfer affidavit. Most municipalities, after that 45-day period, will fine you $5 per day up to a total of $200. It's an obvious incentive to turn your paperwork in like you're supposed to, so that particular city knows who the actual owner of the property is and how to get in touch with you. When I stopped in to do some research on the property this morning, we had found that not only had that owner not pulled some permits, but they're literally 3 weeks short of owning the property for an entire year, and they still haven't filed that paperwork. And then talking with our staff in those departments this morning, they said it happens quite frequently. So that people are coming in after the 45-day mark. I think from our perspective of knowing who owns properties and when they get transferred, we need to, it was a council decision, I guess, back in the 90s that they had been feeling generous and that they would waive those fees. And obviously that's kind of developed into people just not turning things in. I think we need to maybe revisit that decision and get with the times and start incentivizing people to turn their paperwork in on time. Thank you.
That's it. Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the abatement, I want to thank City Manager Brown for his work and his staff's work on pulling that together and taking me through it personally. A lot to go through, and I can appreciate the difficulty that was, and the number of steps. And I think the fact that we wrapped it up fairly quickly, it's an indicator of what a good job you did preparing us and preparing the information and getting everything in place. Thank you very much. And welcome to Blue Water Technologies. Look forward to a minimum of 15 years of your residency on Beck Road. So
From your mouth.
thank you for being here. Thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Grenlund Fox.
And I would also like to welcome Blue Water. I think you're going to love it here. It's great, great community. And thank you, Steve, too, for all the work that you did.
Well, thank you.
And all the information that you gave me and the phone calls, and I appreciate that as well. Then I also wanted to congratulate all of those celebrating work anniversaries. And then I wanted to wish Kathy good luck on the election.
Thank you.
Take it every time.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to extend a warm welcome to Blue Water. It'll be exciting to see some activity down there, and it just seemed like a big abandoned White Hulk. So I'm very excited about that and what it'll bring to Wixom, and some of the opportunities for your employees as well to make Wixom their home. Also, thank you, Mr. Brown and Ms. McGee, for doing that background research for me. What was interesting and very disappointing, and that the city investment on these tax abatements is significant. And everybody comes up and says they're going to support the city, and I applaud your acceptance of my challenge, Mr. Tracy. But I would like staff to actually go back out to these other companies. I noticed that only one of them, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus by naming their names today, but go back out to them, reach out and say, hey, this was one of the commitments you made verbally up here at the podium when your tax abatement was approved, but here's the records, right? And I looked at the records with Ms. McGee, went back to 2016 even, right? 2015, and very few are living up to that challenge, so please do that.
Yeah, let's
Other than that, everybody have a safe drive tomorrow. Oh, one other thing too, if any of the council members want some additional background on signal prioritization, preemption, and the whole V2X, I'm open to giving you some material or background. So,
Thank you. All right. I want to say welcome to Blue Water. I'm looking forward to the next 15 years of working with you guys, and it's going to be exciting, and can't wait for you guys to cut that ribbon and get in there. I want to thank you and congratulate our 6th work-anniversary workers and thank them for their service to our community. I just want to call out 2 of them. Melissa Harrison is celebrating 24 years, and Jay Westervelt is celebrating 29 years. That's pretty cool that we have people who are working almost 30 years in this spot, and appreciate it very much. And I also want to thank City Manager Brown. I know he's putting a lot of time in, and I know to get this packet done, he stayed here on a Sunday till 1 o'clock to get this done for us and get us the information so we can get through this complicated tax abatement real easy, and I appreciated it this end. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good.